Tonight, this program will shed light on various attempts by the Kenyan Catholic Church to block various vaccination drives conducted by the Kenyan government and international health organizations. I'll speak to an official from the Kenyan Catholic Doctors Association, an organization for a long time who has been against various vaccination drives conducted by the Kenyan government. Also tonight, as you can see, it's a new program. Every night, every Kenyan will congregate here to get unbiased reports, important discussions. We are bold and balanced. Let's get to the highlights. Tonight, on the headliner, we highlight an issue that the Kenyan media has been silent on for years now: the politics of vaccination. The Kenyan Catholic Church is notorious for urging its faithful against taking vaccines administered by the government. With an estimated 40% of Kenyans being Catholics, what if they listen to their leaders? Billions of children could be at risk of acquiring life-threatening diseases. Tonight, we speak to a man who has been at the center of the attempts of the Catholic Church to stop polio, tetanus, and now HPV vaccination exercises in the country. Also tonight, in the anticipation of the yet-to-be-released BBI report, we have a discussion tonight on the legal framework of the BBI task force, its predetermined position popularized by its backers, which is referendum, and if at all these referendum calls by Kenyan politicians are in the interest of you, the Kenyan. I will speak to Member Parliament of Darago constituency, Jeremiah Kioni, and Women Representative of Migori, Pamela Odhiambo, in the bulletin tonight. Also, in our news segment tonight, Your World, a segment giving you a front row seat to events and issues taking place across our borders and may have an effect on you as a Kenyan citizen. We'll take you all the way to South Africa with the first-hand account of the recent wave of the xenophobia attacks in the Rainbow Nation. Let me break down this for you. Xenophobia is fear or hatred towards foreigners. In South Africa, there are claims of locals accusing foreigners of taking their jobs. The best way to solve this seems to be attacking foreigners. I'll speak to a journalist from South Africa. Tonight, I'm Benjamin Opiyo. On to tonight's headliner. Last month, when the Kenyan government was gearing to start a mass vaccination of girls against cervical cancer, doctors affiliated to the Catholic Church came out to protest the move by the government to vaccinate 10-year-old girls against human papilloma virus, which is a cancer-causing virus. The Kenyan Catholic Doctors Association released a statement castigating the decision to vaccinate 10-year-old girls. According to the World Health Organization, the vaccine is most effective when it's administered between the ages of 9 and 14, something the Kenya Catholic Doctors Association will hear none of. The argument is that 10-year-old children are not sexually active and there's no need to expose them to a vaccine for sexually transmitted disease. Now, I want to put this discussion into perspective. I'm now joined by an Assistant Secretary from the Kenya Catholic Doctors Association, Dr. Waome Ngada. Thank you so much for having time for me tonight.
Thank you.
Last month, when the government was planning to roll out a mass vaccination exercises, which is administering the human papilloma virus vaccine to 10-year-old girls, the human papilloma virus, some of its strains causes cervical cancer. You, the Kenya Catholic Doctors Association, came out to oppose this. Why?
Let me just first start by clarifying that the Catholic Church is the largest private healthcare provider in this country. And it started offering healthcare long before the government of Kenya was formed. And therefore it is inaccurate to say that the church opposes vaccination, because the church actually provides vaccination across all its health centers.
I mean opposing
yes.
Not all vaccination drives.
That is important to clarify. So let us focus on the HPV. We studied the science behind the HPV vaccination drive. And our conclusion as Catholic Doctors Association is that it is not necessary. And it is not necessary for the following reasons. The body's natural immune system is able to clear off 99.85% of the HPV vaccine without the assistance of any medication. And it means then, therefore, that only 0.1% of the infection then persists. It is this persistent disease that can then lead to cancer. So 0.5% of the people who have persistent disease. It takes 8 to 10 years before the persistent disease develops into cancer. And if women were trained to do a simple test called the pap smear test every 3 years, you'd actually pick up those changes long before cancer. And that is how US and the Western world has been able to stop the deaths from cancer of the cervix, long before vaccination, this vaccine came into the market. Yeah. And therefore, our opinion is that there is no need to recreate the wheel. The same things that were used to reduce cancer of the cervix are effective. This vaccine is not necessary because the body is able to remove the infection on its own.
But what is it? Because there are some strains of this virus which
yes.
causes cancer. So an international health organization, World Health Organization, advocates for vaccination for all girls, and they say the vaccine is most effective when administered between 9-year-old to 14-year-old. The body recommends the body has recommended for vaccination before they are sexually active. So from what I get from you, there's no need for this vaccine. Are these backed by studies?
Yes, this is factual. In fact, we must be very careful not to listen to personal opinion. Yeah. Or the opinion of NGOs because they have big names. What we need to be guided. When you say personal
opinion, you mean to the opinion by the head of...
You see, like you could have an opinion, for instance, that it is useful. I could have an opinion that is not useful. Yeah. That opinion is not useful to the scientific world. Yeah, WHO can have an opinion.
Well, WHO saying that.
WHO can have an opinion. It doesn't necessarily mean that that opinion is correct.
But do you have studies to say that this vaccine...
Yes, I have just told you that your body is able to remove 99.5%, 99.85% of that vaccine on its own without you having taken any vaccine. The second thing is that you must understand that vaccines are drugs and they have potentially serious side effects. This particular HPV virus vaccine was introduced just in 2006. Today in the US and in Europe, it has the highest rate of side effects, much higher than all the other vaccines put together. Yep. Some of these complications are very serious. We have children who are going into premature menopause. We have deep venous thrombosis, blood clots in the legs. We have autoimmune disorders. We have women who are dying from this vaccination. So anytime you give a drug, then you must weigh its risks against its benefits. And that is a very important part of our scientific understanding. Good. So when you look at those side effects, to a point where the Japanese government, which had introduced this vaccination the same way the Kenya government is hoping to do, actually withdrew its support for the vaccine because of the side effects that it caused. So you're saying you have innocent little girls who haven't started having any sexual intercourse, and you want to vaccinate the whole country just because 0.015% of people can get this persistent disease. And yet, pap smears done for those who have those persistent disorders can actually help us to stop HPV infection. So when you weigh the risk versus benefit, you come to the same conclusion, that it is not necessary. But let me also guide on public health policy. The HPV is a contagious disease. There are 3 categories that you look at. There are diseases like measles and TB that I can sneeze and you get the disease, which means they're highly contagious. Even in a matatu you can get it. Yeah. For those diseases, vaccination is very important. And even in this country, we still vaccinate against TB and measles up to today. Then there are those diseases like polio and cholera that are caused by what we call fecal-oral, that you eat contaminated food contaminated by human waste, or water contaminated by human waste. The best way to deal with those is to provide clean water and to teach people how to wash their hands before eating or drinking whatever they are doing. But because polio has its own serious effects, you also vaccinate against polio. When you come to contagious diseases that are spread sexually, like human papillomavirus, for instance, HIV/AIDS, gonorrhea, chlamydia, syphilis, the way to deal with those diseases is because they are diseases you would get out of choice or because of your behavior. The way to deal with those diseases is to change the attitude of people
So from that statement,
Yes.
it seems to be a question of more of morality than a health concern, because you
N-
say...
it is not, I haven't mentioned morality anyway.
No, but when
We are
when I get
talking-
what you say is that these sexual transmitted diseases, it's transmitted through sex, and if you abstain, then you won't get this.
So,
You won't get this. So it seems you're getting it more to the morality of
we dealt
giving
with
these vaccinations to people.
how are we dealing with HIV today, for instance? HIV does not have a vaccine, right?
Yes.
But it is a sexually transmitted disease that is causing a lot of problems. How are we dealing with it in terms of public health? We told people it is important that you be faithful to your partner, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if you're not married, you abstain from sexual intercourse, isn't it? Those kind of sexual changes in your habits would prevent you from getting those diseases. It is exactly the same story for HPV. Nothing changes. In any case, you still, if you are clear about the way you behave sexually, you also protect yourself against syphilis, against gonorrhea, against chlamydia, and many other diseases that are out there that have no vaccination.
So the Kenya Catholic Doctors Association came out to oppose this vaccination access by the government. It's not about vaccination of 10-year-old girls. It's about vaccination of anybody.
No.
When it relates to human papillomavirus.
Yes, the idea is not. The idea is that the vaccine is not necessary for anyone. Scientifically, any disease that your body can clear off within up to 99% of the time without you taking any medication, and that is not life-threatening, and that the disease that it may bring to you is persistent, that you can pick up changes 8 to 10 years before. The treatment for this that is logical is we train women to do regular pap smears. Every 3 years do a pap smear. We pick up changes that would lead to cancer. You treat that change and you prevent cancer of the cervix. That is the way to do it. So it is really a medical and scientific argument. It has nothing to do with morality.
Okay, but you made a medical and scientific argument,
yes,
saying why we don't need to administer
yes,
this vaccine to
yes,
girls. But some medical professionals in your industry are against this. There's Dr. Alfred Mukomba, who is a gynecologist and from Kenyatta National Hospital, is saying what he knows, I'm going to quote him now, what he knows so far is that the vaccine provides 90% defense against cervical cancer. Two researchers conducted at the Kenyatta National Hospital show that the HPV vaccine was effective in dealing with the HPV type 16 and 18 virus, the common causes of cervical cancer locally. So these are some of your medical professionals saying that look, this is the only way to... It's right to administer this vaccine to...
It is not the only way. First, let us clear the air about HPV, the HPV vaccine being a vaccine against cancer. This is a vaccine against HPV, the virus, okay? It is the virus that has the potential of giving you a cancer. So the HPV vaccine is a vaccine against HPV. It is not a vaccine against cancer. And HPV is not the only cause of cancer of the cervix. And out of the 4 that are in this particular vaccine, yes, there are another 16 that are known to cause cancer that are not in the vaccine. In fact, the manufacturer of this vaccine says that even if you get that vaccine, you must continue doing your pap smears because your risk of getting cancer has not been removed. And then on top of those 16, then you have another 150 subtypes of HPV. It's not even practical to produce a vaccine against all those subtypes. And even if you get the vaccine, you still have to do your regular pap smears as a woman. Then what was the use of taking the vaccine in the first place and exposing yourself to all those risks?
Okay, so we are pressed for time, and I want to get, when you speak, do
yes,
you speak for the Catholic Church in Kenya?
Not at all. The Kenya Catholic Doctors...
You're a group affiliated with the Catholic Church?
The Kenya Catholic Doctors is an independent organization.
Yeah.
And there is
the Catholic Church?
It is an independent organization. The Catholic Church speaks through the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops. And therefore, any statement from the KCCB will come from the Secretary General or the Chairman Bishop. And we are not in the KCCB. So this is the position of the Kenya Catholic Doctors Association. Okay,
so for this recent vaccination exercise by the government to administer HPV vaccine to young 10-year-old girls is a position by the Kenyan Catholic Doctors Association and
yes,
not the Kenyan Catholic Church?
Yes, for now it is the Kenya Catholic Doctors Association. That is our statement. We have looked at the science, we have advised Kenyans, And we know Kenyans are intelligent people. They know when science is speaking.
Do you have children?
I have children.
Girls and boys?
I have a 13-year-old girl.
Will you take him to
She
a
will
medical
not.
center?
She will not be vaccinated against
what if in the
hepatitis
future
A.
she gets cervical cancer? Or
The truth is this, my brother.
yes.
I will teach her what is right, and she will grow up and she will make her decisions. She may make good decisions, she may not make good decisions. That is not in my hands. But I am not going to risk her health now to prevent her from getting a sexually transmitted disease, only one out of the so many others she can get if she chooses that path.
Thank you so much for having time for me tonight.
Thank you very much.
I want to take a short break. Coming up after the short break, we are delving into the referendum debate. Is the referendum calls by the Kenyan politicians really in the interest of you as a Kenyan? Keep it here. I'll be back in a short while. Welcome back to the program. The Building Bridges initiative has been receiving much attention lately, even from higher quarters. Deputy President William Ruto shunned any talks on referendum, telling African Union envoy Raila Odinga to tell BBI the changes he requires in the constitution. The task force seems to be getting more than just attention, new definitions. Kieru Member of Parliament calls it Blue Band Initiative. Kari Member of Parliament Alice Wahome has branded it Beba Baba Ikulu, while Nyali Member of Parliament Mohamed Ali has christened it Building Billionaires Initiative. These statements, owing to the political divide arising from the sustained calls for a referendum, opposition legislators led by Raila Odinga and a faction of Jubilee members known as Kilaweka have expressed that BBI is the ideal path to amend the constitution.
Punda ambayo wanajiita ati tupunguze gunia. Hiyo punda tunajua punda ni nani? Punda ni nani? Na mwenye punda tunajua sivyo? Sasa awache kuleta punda yake kwa maneno ya ODM. Ati anasema ya kwamba Ukota anasema ya kwamba hata hii Nairobi yote kutoka Kibera mpaka Ruaraka mpaka Embakasi kule kwa babu ati tutakuwa wajumbe wawili. Hiyo inawezekana? Kibera wewe! Wamama mpo! Ati anasema ya kwamba Article 100 as read with Article 167 ati hiyo tutoe.
This comes against the backdrop of calls for a constitutional review. There is Punguza Mizigo fronted by former presidential contender and Third Way Alliance party leader Ukuru Aukot. But BBI seems to be getting more attention than Aukot's bill.
Is leading this pack of liars in telling lies about this bill. Moses Wetangula is another one. We, instead of supporting this bill, which is even elevating his position as a upper house.
The Building Bridges Initiative Task Force was formed after the much-touted handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. The committee went around the country collecting views from leaders and groups. The committee has retreated to compile their findings and will present their report to the leaders this coming month.
To the feelings, contributions, and suggestions of Kenyans, our meetings throughout have been captured in the Hansard that you see behind there. And therefore, once our report comes out, anybody who wants to verify, cross-check what we shall have come up with in order to ascertain that that was the view of Kenyans shall have an opportunity to do so. We remain true to the feelings, contributions, and suggestions of Kenyans. Our meetings throughout have been captured in the Hansard that you see behind there. And therefore, once our report comes out, anybody who wants to verify, cross-check what we shall have come up with.
Now I want to bring Jeremiah Kioni, is a member of parliament of Daraga constituency, to have a discussion on this. He's joining us live via phone link. He's the member of parliament of Daraga. I've repeated that. Jeremiah Kioni, thank you for having time for this. So you are the chairman of Constitutional Implementation Oversight Committee, committee that is mandated, and I'm going to call the Constitution, monitor, facilitate, and oversee the development of legislation and administrative procedures required to implement the Constitution. Once these reports come out, its findings are likely to be implemented by the committee chair. But you have termed the task force constitutional. On what basis?
Well, I think one of the things that we need to appreciate is that this was an initiative that was done really outside any legal framework, but that does not mean that it cannot be given some legal backing. What is important is that if we want to amend the Constitution, the procedure of amending the Constitution is provided for in the Constitution. My committee in Parliament has been charged with that responsibility of identifying gaps, impediments, and even assessing the status of implementation of the Constitution from time to time. And I think it will only be useful if such initiatives are channeled through the laid down constitutional processes.
So at this
that
moment,
way,
yes.
That way you are certain of including everybody or having everybody on board, so that we don't have sections of the political divide thinking that they have been left out or feeling like they were left out on any initiative. If you want to amend the Constitution, it is important that any such initiative is very inclusive, so that you don't come across unnecessary obstacles along the way.
So this is more of a constitutional issue, more of an inclusivity issue than a constitutional issue from where you sit?
It is a constitutional issue, and as it being a constitutional issue, if you want to achieve something in changing the structure or the nature of our Constitution, it must be conceived in a very inclusive manner. Those who are opposed to something else can use the excuse of not having been left at the beginning to object to some very useful amendment to the Constitution. But what we are doing as a Constitution Committee is we also have a parliamentary initiative, and I'm sure some of the ideas carried by the very many initiatives will find its way into the initiative that is there in Parliament. Okay.
So you also support these the calls by referendum, the call by politicians for a referendum. You support them?
So I support the call for a referendum by politicians, even by those in the NGO world, those in the religious sector. The only thing is that we need to do it in a structured manner, in a manner that allows us to achieve what we want, as opposed to, inviting unnecessary criticisms or objections.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We are pressed for time. Thank you so much for having time for us tonight. That's Jeremiah Kioni, is a member of Parliament of Ndaragwa constituency. Okay, that's Jeremiah Kioni, is the Member of Parliament of Ndaragwa constituency. Thank you for having time for us tonight, Member of Parliament. And we'll have more discussions of the calls for referendum by politicians in the country. This is the end of our inaugural program tonight. As you have seen, it's journalism at its best. I'm Benjamin Opiyo. Have a good night.